All right, and we are live. So hello, everyone. Happy Webinar Wednesday to you. So today, if you are joining us, let me know in the chat if you can hear me, if you can see this beautiful 2Nimble logo that we've got up on the screen, and let me know where you are as well. That's always nice to see. So I hope wherever you are joining us from, whether it is morning, afternoon, or evening, you are having a great day. And thank you so much for taking the time to, oh, Charles from Paris, hello. Thank you for breaking the ice. Appreciate that. Jesse can hear and see. Awesome, awesome, awesome. It's great to see. So thanks for joining us and taking the time out today to learn a little bit about editing. Oh, good. Okay, so it looks like you can see and hear. Ooh, we've got Florida, Boston, Michigan. Okay, good. So almost all of where we're from is represented. I don't see any North Carolina yet. So if you're in North Carolina, go on and raise up. Okay, so we will get started. I am joined with Mark and Audrey from 2Nimble. If you are joining us today, you are interested in editing. And if you aren't sure why you're joining us, we will be talking about editing. So 2Nimble has roots in all sectors of publishing and are ready to help you in your author journey, no matter what your publishing path. They offer a consultative approach with transparent pricing and the services you need instead of packaging up services you don't. So if you do need more than one service, you can qualify for a bundled service discount with only the right services for you every time and on time. From editing to graphic design to assistance with getting your book distributed, they are here to help. All right, I finally see some NCs or NC original locations. So thanks for that. All right, so go ahead and drop your questions in the chat. I know that I believe Mark will be keeping eyes on that, and they will get to them as we go along. So without further ado, Audrey, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Hey, everybody. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for coming, and welcome to 2Nimble's webinar, which is the power of professional editing, or as I like to call it, hey, I just met you and this is crazy, but here's my novel. Would you edit it maybe? My name is Audrey Hoisington, and I will be your presenter for the day. I am the senior editor at 2Nimble and have been editing for far longer than I would like to admit to. It's been over 10 years at this point. I made it my course of study when I went to Central Michigan University because I couldn't stop reading and figured that I'd better channel it into something productive so that I had an excuse to be doing something else during class. If somehow any of my previous professors are here, I am so sorry. Manning the chat for us today and eagerly awaiting your questions is Mark Histand. He is a wizard. He is a cat father of 2 precious fuzzballs. He's unfailingly patient at explaining math to me and a general all-around guru. He's also my boss, so please be sure to tell him that this is the best presentation you've ever seen. If you have any questions or answers for questions later on in the presentation, he has so kindly agreed to keep an eye on the chat, so please feel free to type them in and he'll let me know.
Thank you so much for that captivating intro, Audrey. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to see all of you here. I am Mark, the aforementioned wizard, although Audrey can sure exaggerate. It's probably one of her favorite editing skills, if I had my opinion. Anyway, I'm so happy again to be with you all today. Before Audrey does her thing, I just want to dive real quick into who we are specifically so you know you're getting the following information from a qualified source. 2Nimble as a whole is going into its 5th year of business, serving authors and organizations alike in content curation and management services. We originated as a group of individuals across the publishing space, coming together with a common goal of elevating the experience of the indie author and publisher. And with 50 plus years combined prior expertise in the traditional and indie publishing spaces, print and editing, we knew we had the tools to do it. But that's enough about who we are as an organization, and I'm sure you're still wondering why we are here. Well, that's a great question as well. As 2Nimble developed, we found more and more that a veil of mystery laid heavily on publishing. Authors just don't have the tools to do it on their own or know what the right way to put together a book is, and that's where we come in. Through webinars like these, self-service videos, and other content, as well as consultation, we're here to elevate your knowledge so you can publish your book your way. So let's start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. Take it away, Audrey.
Thanks so much, Mark. So today I'll be touching on some of the specificities of editing and why it's right for you. Whether you have just completed your very first rough draft or you have a well-oiled machine of a manuscript, congrats on both, editing is the last step before seeking publication. I'll be going over the different styles of editing so that way you can be content in your stylistic choice, what makes editing invaluable, how to determine what level of editing that your book needs, and tips and suggestions on the review process, as well as what to expect. Again, there will be an opportunity for questions at the end of the webinar, so please feel free to send them Mark's way via chat. Let's jump into it. There are a multitude of editing style rules and rule set guides available for different types of published texts based on the anticipated reader or audience that the author is gearing their work towards. A style guide or a manual of style is the standardization of requirements that help to improve communication and consistency, so that regardless of subject, works edited under a similar style guide will all have common cues, grammatical rules, and citations. For example, the New York Times has their own style guide to ensure that all of their articles are set up similarly for easier accessibility for their audience. If you've taken an English or humanities course in high school or college within the last 10 or so years, you've likely heard about a couple of different style guides. So for the sake of time, I'm only going to go over 3 of the most well-known. MLA is the editing style most frequently used in English or humanities courses. It's usually adopted by liberal arts or history studies. If you have written a paper for an English class, you've likely utilized MLA style. The rules that function under MLA are geared more towards creating familiar cues and shortcuts for reading dissertations, scholarly peer-reviewed journals, and academic presses. APA style is generally reserved for scholarly journal articles and books within behavioral and social sciences. APA editing emphasizes a focus on aiding reading comprehension of these topics, as well as utilizing word choice that reduces a bias in language. So it's most frequently found within scientific, medical, or public health journals. The references and citations are more simplified than for other editing styles, and they continue to update as our understanding of social differentiations evolve, such as updating regarding gender, sex, race, sexual orientation, intersectionality, and the like. Chicago Manual of Style is 2Nimble's preferred house style due to it being one of the most widely used and accepted editing styles within the publishing industry. Most publishers, both in print and digital media, utilize Chicago Manual editing rule sets due to its flexibility. While MLA and APA have specific guidelines and requirements for their citations and the way that their texts are set up, Chicago Manual offers a little bit more flexibility in citation requirements, while still maintaining grammar and punctuation rules and expectations. We rely on it to bring all manuscripts up to publishing quality. When deciding on an editor, you want to make sure that their house style or the preferred style guide that they utilize matches up with your anticipated text. Just as you wouldn't try to shove a round peg in a square hole, ensuring that your text is edited in a favorable or familiar style guide is the best way to ensure that your manuscript is well understood by your anticipated readership. Someday we'll find it, the editing connection, the authors, the editors, and me. Who's up for a game of Name That Style Guide? I'll offer up a text that's ready for publication, and please type in the chat what sort of style guide you think should be used for the specific type of text. Our first suggestion is a study of 24 grad students and 24 kindergartners who weren't allowed to nap. This is a dissertation on why adults cry. Which style guide do you think is the best one to utilize for editing this?
All right, looks like Julie got it with MLA. Go ahead, Audrey.
Alrighty. Next one is Shakespeare. A madman, poet, and disgraced prince all walk into a bar. A breakdown of William Shakespeare's Hamlet.
All right, and it looks like We have Timothy is saying it's Chicago, and so is Olivia. Can you give us some more information on this one, Audrey?
I would actually recommend, because this one is based on an academic paper, that this one would be MLA style. But I mean, you could also do it in Chicago style. Again, Chicago is a flexible editing style set. All right. And then finally, we have My Cat Wants to Be the Next Avenger, a kid's book.
Anybody? Chicago! Timothy got
Yay! All right. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Let's press on. If my computer decides it wants to work. So with all these rules, you might be thinking, how on earth do you pick the correct one, and why should I even edit anyway? Editing makes sure that your message or story gets to the reader in the clearest, most professional and engaging way. It's ensuring that the story or text that you put all your time and effort into is easily understood and accessible to all readers, as well as cleared of any small, confusing grammatical mistakes or misspellings. It's making sure that your sentences flow and make cohesive sense, and that your characters successfully arc. While every text should be looked over by yourself, it can be difficult to judge just what is necessary and what is not when you're self-editing. So it's crucial not to look at self-editing as the end-all be-all. Have you ever visited the monkey house in the zoo and realized how awful it smells when you first stepped in? But the longer you stick around and the more enclosures you see, you stop recognizing the smell? Self-editing can be a little bit like that. You can't tell when your writing needs a freshening up. Because you've written the story, you know what's going to happen next or what your next point of order is. You know how the manuscript is going to progress, and you know already what has been sacrificed to the editing gods. Therefore, you're familiar with details that are no longer part of the text. Killing your darlings or removing the extraneous bits and pieces of your writing that either don't contribute much or slow down the pacing can be difficult to gauge when it's just you looking over your work, which is where an editor comes in handy. A reader, one who isn't familiar with your manuscript, isn't going to have that background knowledge that you have, and so they may not be able to tell you what's missing or what doesn't make sense, or when your darlings need to be offed. This can instead be considered a beta reader. You may be asking what sets apart an editor from a beta reader. A beta reader, after all, is someone who reads your entire manuscript, who is supposed to give you feedback on what worked and what didn't. Wouldn't they be able to help with deciding if the story is working or not, if there are passages that need to be shortened or entirely cut? In short, yes, but also no. A beta reader is great for gauging a first reaction, or even looking at that second read-through of a text. But as beta reading is meant to provide you with a general overview of the text's progression, your beta reader is going to be focusing more on the story as a whole, rather than the punctuation, grammar, individual character arcs, and how the content is set up within your text. Your editor is going to be able to look at the stylistic requirements and the rules of the text, as well as the story and makeup of the work, to afford you a complete look at anything that may need a little tweaking within the manuscript. So what makes a professional editor so great? Well, your editor will be able to look not only for common errors, but also will be able to help you tailor your work to your intended audience. They're going to be able to provide intuitive, specific suggestions to make your work shine. And while it's great to know people who are able to edit, say your roommate is an English teacher, and so they know a great deal about correct grammar and punctuation, a professional editor is going to not only know the ins and outs of the genre, but they'll be able to ensure your work is edited with the correct style guide for your work, as well as to provide you experienced feedback. Consider, your 12-year-old niece knows how to bake a cake. Great. She can even do it with minimal adult supervision. So when your birthday comes around and she wants to decorate her own creation to surprise you, she's a rock star at it. Now, would you hire her to do your wedding cake for 350 guests, plus Queen of England and Paul McCartney? You might want to hire a professional baker for that, just to make sure the icing on the cake isn't overly sweet and you have more than enough for everyone to compliment you on it before you shove it into your soon-to-be spouse's face. Friends and colleagues make excellent beta readers or even second pass readers after the first edits have been completed. They'll be able to tell you what's working in the story, but it's unfair to expect them to catch any and all punctuation, grammatical, or spelling mistakes. When you're getting ready to publish and you're signing off in the acknowledgments to Russell Crowe that he was your inspiration, once he gets a chance to pick up the novel, you want to make sure it's as edited and clean as possible. Step. Spell check time. Before sending your book to anyone, beta reader or editor, we insist on running your text through your favorite spell checker. It's your first line of defense in ensuring that any small errors are caught before you've got your friend coming back to you with a question why your main character was trapped in a sandy desert instead of a sandy desert. Grammarly is our preferred program, not just because it's free, but also because it's capable of detecting tone, grammar, and spelling errors. There may not be a spell checker that can catch any and every error out there, but they will get the majority of them out of your hair so that your next reader can move on to the good stuff. One question we get frequently asked is, where do I even start in the editing process? It can feel overwhelming at first when you're trying to figure out what type of editing your manuscript even needs. So if you're unsure which level of editing is right for your text, it might be time to give it a good old check. If you're looking for an in-depth read of your entire text before deciding which editing is best for you, a manuscript evaluation is what you're looking for. Most, if not all, editing services offer an evaluation of your entire text, in which they'll look over your entire manuscript to get an accurate idea of what amount of editing your book needs. In reading through the entire book, it allows the editor to take stock of characters or plot points, to look at the grammar and structure of the text itself, how you've set it up, and whether it even needs to be restructured. If you're not looking for as thorough of an evaluation, you could always go with an editing check. An editing check is different because it's just an evaluation of a sample of your text rather than looking at the whole thing. It's a small synopsis of what you have to offer. It allows the editor to get a snapshot view of if there are any continuous errors, such as my favorite, the good old Shatner comma, that can be perceived throughout the text, or if the book even needs editing at all. So if you're going between editors, or you've had your book previously looked at and let it sit for a while to age like a fine wine, an editing check can be a quick first step to determine if editing is even needed. Check it out. Editing checks are exclusive to 2Nimble. All right. Time for some more class participation points and a water break for Audrey. How many times do you think a text should be edited? Type into the chat your best estimate.
All right, Audrey, we are all ready to play.
Okay. So if you answered 3, you were correct. While every text varies based on where it started and the level of editing needed from the get-go, 3 is the magic number of recommended edits for a manuscript to go from hewn rock to polished marble, which is why we...
Hey, Audrey, I'm just going to interrupt you. I think Robert is going to be your new best friend with 10. So absolutely. If you want to connect with him after this call and edit his manuscript 10 times, he's your guy.
Robert, you and me. We got this. I am so down to edit 10 times. 3 is roughly the estimated amount of recommended edits for a manuscript to go from its very first stage to its next stage. But I do like where your head's at. 10 sounds great. So why should we have multiple edits? Simply put, the less cluttered your draft is, the easier it is to pinpoint the areas where revision is needed. If you think of editing and different levels of editing like you think of building a house, you don't just build the infrastructure or the bare bones of your new cottage on Lake Michigan and go, yes, I shall live in nature and out of nature all at once. At least I don't think that sounds like fun. You've got to put the walls up. You've got to get running water that's not the lake itself. and by the way, swimming should be the only thing that you're doing in the lake, you've got to get the electricity set up, you've got to get your appliances hooked up, and you've got to decorate. Editing also has multiple layers to it. And the more your editor can focus on one element, whether that's helping to develop the story, ensuring the content and grammar are all cohesive, or doing the final punctuation lookover, the more concentrated and focused the results of that edit will be. Additionally, anytime you make any sort of large change to your story, if you're overhauling a character or the plot itself, if you've undone your entire final act, moved it to the beginning of the book, then moved the beginning of the book to the end, you want to make sure that you get your book edited to make sure that the plot as you've reimagined it or the characters make cohesive sense. Additionally, this may come as a shock, and if I tell you this, you have to promise you won't let on to anyone else, but we editors are human. I know. Let that sink in. It's a game changer. Unfortunately, I am not a supercomputer disguised as a Stepford wife, nor is any other editor I know out there, but don't tell them that because they get upset when I spill trade secrets. It's normal for an edit to have an error rate of roughly 2 to 3% per revision, simply because as hard as we try to catch everything, there's inevitably going to be a small handful of mistakes that slip through the cracks. Having multiple edits and multiple sets of eyes on the manuscript to revise is going to help bring those remaining errors down to the smallest amount possible. Teamwork makes the dream work, after all. All right. Now we're going to take this step by step, level by level. You've run your spell checker. You've minimized reader confusion about the pair of pairs and the male, man. Now we're going to be looking at the specifics and editing levels, beginning with step 1. Developmental editing is the first offered editing level and is best suited for an unfinished or first draft of the manuscript. Developmental editing is laying the groundwork for your text. It's getting the infrastructure set up, putting in the baseboards, and starting your book's construction to make sure the bones are good. For developmental editing, your editor is going to be looking at the book's content. They're going to be able to provide inline comments and will generally schedule a call to discuss any of the edits that they have suggested, that you have suggested, after they get the chance to review them. I always suggest coming to one of these phone calls with a list of questions based on the edits provided, whether it's asking for additional clarification or if you have an idea for an improvement and wanted to run it by them. The developmental edit is a chance for you to work with your editor on setting up the story to begin with. You have a really great idea, or again, you have that very first draft that you've put your blood, sweat, and tears into, and you're looking for just a little bit of help to make sure that your story makes sense. You're looking for that guidance that the editor is going to be able to give you to make sure that your characters are arcing correctly or not correctly, depending on what kind of story you're working on. A developmental edit is meant to focus on the content and the story itself rather than the grammar, spelling, punctuation of the book, as that will all likely be changed with the revisions. You wouldn't want to have your editor look over the punctuation to make sure that it's up to Chicago style, only to then go back in and have to edit it again after you've ripped apart the second act of the book, flipped it around, and turned it on its head, right? Your editor is not going to be rewriting your book for you, but they will be able to point out moments where the content provided can be improved upon and are willing to work with you to make sure that you're happy with the way that your book is progressing. Line editing for a novel is like getting the plumber in to come and set up the water heater. It's getting your electrician to run electricity from the master of your house to your electrical box. Line editing is suited for authors who are looking for input on all aspects of the manuscript, including both the writing and the content that's provided. Your editor is going to look at any and all typographical errors, such as misspellings, misuse of punctuation, the wrong word being used, making sure that the grammar is there, the readability and flow and clarity of your language, as well as the content of your story are all up to par. How are your characters developed? That's what they're going to be looking at. They're going to be checking if the pacing works for the story. Is the structure stable and is the story well organized? This level of editing also includes a call with your editor to allow you to go over any questions, comments, or ideas you've had after you've revisited your work. Again, it's a great time to go over their suggestions, anything that they've had an idea about with the structure of the story, or how you've been thinking about incorporating their ideas into your book if you liked them. Once again, your editor is not going to be rewriting the story for you. They're only there to offer suggestions on how to improve or adjust what has been provided to them. If you're looking for the story to be written for you, that would be more along the lines of ghostwriting. An editor is just going to be offering suggestions on what you've already provided. Next, we have copy editing, which is the part of editing that's similar to hiring carpenters to get your cabinet set up. It's picking up your appliances and fitting them into your house, getting the recessed lighting and decorative sconces for your bat cave, you know, all the usual stuff. Copy editing is best suited for manuscripts that have not yet been edited for punctuation and flow of language, or in which the author does not want any input on content. This is an excellent step up from the developmental editing, as in this case, the content of the story isn't being edited or offered suggestions about. For a copy edit, your editor is going to check the manuscript for any typographical errors, such as misspellings, misuse of punctuation, wrong word usage, making sure the grammar usage is all proper, and that the flow of language and the text itself is readable. It's an excellent choice if you are already confident in the way that your story unfolds, or if you're looking for a more in-depth pass after a content edit or any large adjustments have been made to your story. And this brings us to our last level of editing, proofreading. Proofreading is filling up your house with your stuff. It's my favorite part. It's putting the decorative last-minute touches on the shelves, getting the kitchen rug colors matched with the backsplash behind the stove. It's dotting the I's and crossing the T's of editing and publishing. As such, it's best suited for a polished manuscript that has already been looked over. Proofreading will only be looking at the base level of errors. It's only checking misspellings, misuse of punctuation, or wrong word usage. Because the focus is so limited, it's there to catch any small errors that may have been missed from the previous edits, because, again, editors are only human. Or if a sentence has been shortened or a paragraph shifted around, a proofread will help to make sure that all the punctuation is in its proper place and that the text is ready to go to publishing. All right, we went over a lot of information there. Everyone still with me? Okay, so we've got one more quick game. This is sort of a Where's Waldo of editing. I'm going to show you a sentence, and to your best estimation, answer in the chat what's wrong with each sentence. We're just looking for like a number of errors that you found within the sentence.
Good luck, everybody. Audrey does this with me, and I keep getting it wrong. So
I believe in you, and no pressure, but this is for the House Cup at the end of term. So to all my fellow Slytherins out there, I'm counting on you.
Boo!
Just kidding. All right. So how many errors can you find within this sentence?
You guys can type your answers in the chat. Doesn't look. There we go. Lindsay got it.
All right. So in this one, there are 3. Those pesky there, and there's get the best of us. All right. In this sentence, how many errors can you find?
All right. So Audrey, just give it a second. It looks like some people were actually rewriting the sentence for us. Thank you so much for number 1.
Thank you, guys.
And let's see. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4 as the error rate for number 2. So Audrey, what is it?
2. It's those pesky apostrophes, making sure that it is not hard to be confused about what its purpose is. All right. in this one, how many errors can you find? Again, I'm only human, so man.
While we're getting some answers in, somebody had asked on the chat, shouldn't one be more specific? I'm going to answer that with yes, but the more specific we made it, the text got too small. So we're doing something a little shorter here. All right, it looks like 2 is the answer that we're getting mostly for number 3, Audrey.
Yes, absolutely. Again, those dang apostrophes. You are going to want to check your work for correct words. All right, so this one's a little bit tricky. How many errors do you find in this sentence?
Looks like we're still on the last question, coming in with answers here. And there we go. All right, Lindsay, Dominique, Tania got 1, and it looks like everybody else rolling in with 1.
Yes, absolutely. There is a difference between get the fly, boys, and get the fly, boys. And then finally, my favorite sentence. How many errors are we able to find in this one?
Wish we had a participation trophy. Looks like Lindsay has been first to answer most of these questions. Great job, Lindsay. And
Lindsay's a Slytherin, isn't she?
She better be a Gryffindor and not a Slytherin. I don't know what you're talking about. But we're going to go ahead and Lindsay had 2 as the correct answer.
Absolutely. If you like eating cats and cars, I worry about your teeth because metal is not easy on the old molars. All right. So at 2Nimble, we're really here to help take the guesswork out of editing. Our goal is to help every author unlock the potential of their manuscript and let it shine. Everyone has a story to tell, and we want to be the ones who help you along your journey to getting it out there and published for everyone else to read. Just remember, my name is Audrey, spelled like Hepburn, and I love being mentioned in the acknowledgments. Whether you're looking for assistance developing the next epic fantasy saga or need the biography of your cat to be cleaned up of grammatical errors and proverbial hairballs, we've got you covered. All right, now accepting any questions, curiosities, feel free to type them in the chat. I saw we had a couple already. So for the first one, hi Ingrid, you are working on your memoir and you feel that you are the best person to edit your book. I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong because you're absolutely correct. You have the best knowledge of what happens in your memoir. I mean, you know your whole life. But as far as checking to make sure that the punctuation is there, making sure that the grammar makes sense, it can be difficult for us as writers to be able to catch everything, which is where that second, third possible pair of eyes to look at it makes the most sense. So if you're not interested necessarily in getting any context feedback or looking at how the story itself progresses in your memoir, I would recommend taking a look at editing services for proofreading at the very least, just to make sure that you are getting those commas in the correct places, you're getting the apostrophes right. If you misspelled a word, as I always do, that's why spell check's my best friend, that you're getting someone else to look at it and make sure that they're catching any and all small errors. All right. Robert, yes, we are absolutely Oxford comma people. James asked, different editors through the process or the same? Is it the author's choice? What are our options? That is entirely up to you. If you decide to go with a line edit or you go with a copy edit before you decide to get it proofread for that last look through, and you really feel like you gel with your very first editor, as the focus narrows down for each level of editing, it's easier then for the editor to look for the more specific, the smaller errors within the text, again, those punctuations, those misspelled words. So if you're going with the same editor, it does get a little bit easier for them to make sure that they are focusing in on just the minute proofreading elements versus the first pass through where they looked at the content itself. But if you feel more comfortable getting multiple people, that is absolutely your choice as well. We have different editors who have different specializations in that they prefer doing proofreading or they prefer doing developmental editing. So it's whatever makes you most comfortable. Alrighty. Is ghostwriting supposed to be more expensive? I'm not 100% positive. Mark, do you have any?
Yes, I do have some more information on that. And basically, when you're working with a ghostwriter, it's going to be more expensive. What we usually see is ghostwriting is about double to triple the price of a typical line edit. Now, we charge about $11.20 per page for a line edit, so you can consider ghostwriting to be about $25 to even $45 per page, depending on the group that you go with. Remember that ghostwriting is not editing. So ghostwriting is completely rewriting your book. While it is done by a professional editor, you still will need to get editing done after that. So if you're looking to have the work remain in your own tone of voice, you want to steer clear of those ghostwriters and make sure that you're just going with a line edit as the highest possible service that you would be looking for.
All right. Thank you so much. We had a question from Constance. What are the fees for each type of editing? That is a great question. We have it all up on our website. Let me, if my computer will let me pull that up so that way I can. Mark, do you have that link? Would you want to just drop it down rather than me reading it out loud?
I'm sorry, Audrey, I was answering a question. What was that?
Oh, no, I appreciate it. There was an excellent question about the fees for each type of editing. Did you want me to just drop the pricing link that we have for our website into the chat rather than me reading it out loud?
I will go ahead and do that now. What I will do is go ahead and drop both our editing service description page as well as our pricing page into the chat for you guys. Has every single editing service on it, and we are very transparent about pricing. You will see per page pricing on our pricing list. That per page pricing is based on 280 words.
Hey guys, I have a question that I've seen that I think maybe others would have as well. For those of us who are on a maybe limited or smaller budget for our projects, how do you decide which editing level to go with if you only have maybe the capacity to pay for one at this time or you're trying to budget that out?
I think I can get that one, Audrey. I mean, at least with 2Nimble, we offer a free review of your manuscript. So if you're really interested in editing, we want to make sure that you are set up for success with your edits. So that's why when you work with 2Nimble, you get those editing checks for free. We're going to review a section of your manuscript. We're going to see exactly what it needs, and we will recommend one single level of editing for you. That will give you the best possible scenario for your book. So if we see that the content is good and the development of the characters is good and overall the story is pretty clean, we're only going to recommend a copy edit for you. We know that as indie authors and writers, budget is always on top of mind. So we want to make it as easy as possible for you to get the right edit. And Ali or Ali, just while I see this pop up, who actually needs an editor? Everyone needs an editor. So just for argument's sake, this slideshow itself was also edited by another editor. So no matter what you're doing, if it is going out there, get it edited.
Yeah, I did see another question or a comment from someone, and I apologize that I don't remember the name, but someone had posed the question, if I'm a great editor, do I need an editor? And I would like to harken back to the really wonderful and vivid, for me at least, imagery that Audrey shared about being in a zoo and zoo smells. And, or even your house smell, how you get really, I would say numb, or you don't realize those things when you're in it all the time. And I think that that's really important, that, anytime you read something, to just know how close you are to it and kind of understand and accept that, and kind of that as the basis of why you would need someone who's a bit more removed from the story to take a look at it with fresh eyes.
Thank you so much, Chelsea. All right. All right, and there were some questions. I'm getting some actual direct messages in the chat. I just want to let everyone know all of our contact information, while we're putting some stuff in here now, will be available at the end. So we're just looking for any more questions specifically about editing, and then we will get you guys all of our information. We would not leave you hanging. So let's see here.
I did see a question from Carolyn Johnson. Is it better to have the manuscript complete before editing, or edit as you complete sections of the manuscript? That's a really great question. If you are still working on your manuscript, you want to start getting a feel for what it's going to look like, or you're running into any kind of roadblocks where you may not know exactly how you want your character to go from point A to B to C, etc. That would be where a developmental editing is preferred, because that would be an opportunity for your editor to then work with you to help you figure out those next steps, how to get your character along those lines. If you do have a complete edited manuscript, then we would recommend looking at the other levels of editing. But if you're still working on completing that very first draft, you'd want to look for more of a developmental edit.
All right, and then let's see here. James, you had messaged to the group about our onboarding process. I did check to see if you had more information. Are you asking about author onboarding process or editor onboarding process? You can just type that in the chat for me. Okay. Going to move on from there then. And James, if you just want to send me a direct message through the chat so we can continue our conversation, that'd be great. And then I do see here, Guy had said, Audrey, do you need a subject specialist to do the editing, for example, of family history? Would you like to cover that one, or would you like me to?
If you don't mind, Mark.
Yeah, not at all. So what I will say to that is, in most cases, right, editing is the same. Editing is looking at the structure of your manuscript. It is looking at the spelling and grammar. When we get into the line editing and the developmental editing, in most cases, that's where we're going to be super specific. And any editing team is going to be super specific about who and what type of editor you are using for the project. When you get to the higher levels of editing, you need someone that specializes or is at least extremely familiar in that type of writing. But for copy editing and proofreading, those styles stay the same. We're just correcting to Chicago manual, so we don't necessarily need to have a specialized editor. For the sake of this conversation, though, I will say that a good thing about 2Nimble is that if you request a certain quality in an editor, we will source that editor first and let you know if we do not have that person to handle your manuscript, but let you know what we do have or who we do have on staff or on our freelancer team that is close. And And then I'm just looking here.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Yeah, sure. So I'm just looking here and I see Dorothy, you were asking about different fonts in a script. If you get an editor that is doing a lot of work, like a line edit or developmental edit, you're going to see a lot of formatting comments. We actually just got one back from one of our freelancers recently. It had a lot of formatting comments in it. That is, if you're planning on publishing on your own, you want your editor to put those in there. But if you're going with a service, you don't need those edits because that will be handled when you get to the formatting step, which we will, by the way, have a webinar coming up soon on our own about formatting. So when we pop that screen up, make sure you guys subscribe to stay in touch. Let's see. And then Olivia, is it necessary to hire a copyright expert or lawyer to read the book? Olivia, that is a great question. And a lot of people actually mix that up with editing. Here's the big thing with copyright. When you, and I know we're getting a little off topic, but this is super important. As soon as you put that pen to paper, as soon as you start typing your manuscript in your favorite word processor, your book is copyrighted. Don't let anyone take that away from you. What that means is that you have that is your internal property. That is yours. What the copyright certificate does is it gets that piece of paper in your hand to trump all other legality issues. Now, if you are asking about copyright for any nonfiction books that you are concerned you might need extra protections over, yes, you do want a lawyer for that. They're going to get you through all of your due diligence. But in general, a copyright lawyer is not necessary, and you can actually file the copyright very easily yourself through the Copyright Office's website. Dominique, yes, we do have discounts for college students and nonprofits. Please, when we go to the next screen, just take our information down and we'll connect.
Mark and Audrey, I apologize if you answered this one, but I saw from Waddell, they asked, what is an editing check versus manuscript evaluation? Could you guys just touch on that one more time?
Yeah, absolutely. So an editing check is going to be looking at roughly 30 or so pages of your manuscript as you've provided it to us. It's looking to make sure that there are, if editing's even needed, that's our very first question, is the error rate so low that it's something that can be fixed very easily. We can let you know, hey, you missed a comma on page 275. Or if there are other issues or noticeable errors within the text, versus a manuscript evaluation, which is looking through your entire manuscript. So the manuscript evaluation is a more in-depth look at your story. It's making sure that it makes sense, that all of your characters or the information that you have put forward is structured in a linear or a path that makes sense for what it is that you're working on, versus just taking kind of like a short synopsis or snapshot of the text itself.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure. Absolutely. How are we doing on time? Okay?
Whoever put in their name as I think that was Ingrid. I am posting the Copyright Office's website to the chat now.
Ooh, I see a good question again, and apologies if you hit on this, but a good question from Robert is, what languages do you edit?
We are only editing English at this time. We are fervently searching for other language editors. So if you know anybody, let us know. But right now, we only have freelancers in the domestic United States for editing.
And you know what, Mark? If I hadn't been so eager to get the answer to that, I would have seen that you already answered it in the chat.
Oh, no worries, Chelsea. No worries. All right. Awesome. I got your name right, Ingrid. Killing it over here. All right. All right, Audrey, I am checking through my messages to you, and I am checking through. Oh, you know what? Claudia asked a great question earlier. We did not hit on it. And Julie asked one as well. So Claudia asked Audrey, I keep getting ads for Grammarly. How is this different?
Ads in which way? I'm so sorry.
She's just saying she's getting a lot of ads to use Grammarly to edit. How is editing with a professional editor different from using Grammarly?
Sure. So when you're getting edited from a professional editor, they are going to be able to catch nuance within your text that an AI may not be able to understand. It may be a turn of phrase that is just a little off the mark, that a computer may not be able to catch or understand why it would be incorrect, or it might be something within the text itself that's a continuity error, that if your character's eyes go from green in the first chapter and then they're suddenly blue in the fifth chapter, Grammarly isn't going to be able to pick up on those, whereas your editor is going to be able to. But again, Grammarly is an excellent first step. They're going to be able to catch any misspellings. They're going to be able to suggest commas where they're needed, semicolons, all that good punctuation. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Audrey. And then the other one, do you work directly with Lulu? Julie had asked me that, and I don't think we answered that yet. We are a vendor on Lulu's site. I talk to Chelsea about once a month, I believe. We do work with them, on a monthly basis. But, at the end of the day, we are here just to help you with your manuscript. And something that we do with Lulu is we will also help you get your book up onto Lulu's site if you use our services. So if you use our editing services or anything else, we do help you just post that book up to Lulu. It's very easy though. I think it's easy to do on your own, but it's nice to have that help. So we do work with Lulu in that regard. Guy, Guy, I don't know if your question about Word is per the new editor that they have, but I will say hands down, Grammarly is much better than Word because it's learning every day. Mm-hmm. So Audrey, could you kind of just give him a little more information on how Grammarly is learning every day?
Sure. The more text that is entered into Grammarly that they are then using to edit and provide feedback on, the more that their AI is learning. Hopefully not too fast. I've seen too many end of the world movies that involve AI's learning. So I'm hoping we're not going to have a Terminator situation. But whereas Microsoft Word is not. They are not necessarily developing their system to continuously learn as you write and have them edit more. So I would recommend, if you're using Microsoft Word to type your manuscript into, it's going to be there to provide suggestions on, hey, it looks like you maybe misspelled a word or maybe a comma is needed here. So it's a great start. I would say Grammarly is a step above though, because as Mark had suggested or said, it is constantly learning and able to detect more errors within the text than just than just Microsoft is. Manuscripts on the brain.
All right, so let's see here. Just a few more questions here. Will, you had said thoughts on Highland. Audrey, I have not used the Highland word editor yet. Have you used that application?
I have not. That's a new one for me. I apologize.
What I'll kind of just say on that, Guy, is Will, is you're going to see a lot of applications coming out in the next couple of years for publishing. Grammarly has been out the longest, and again, is an AI consistently learning program. So with that said, we personally at 2Nimble are sticking with Grammarly because we believe that it is going to continue to learn. And because it has been learning for longer than any of these other applications, that education that we are giving it as users, putting in that input, is invaluable to that application. So it's definitely something that I would say stick with Grammarly. It's a little bit off now, but we're seeing every day it's getting better. Mm-hmm. And Robert, just to jump out on that, I mean, it's an AI. It's literally, I mean, as weird as this sounds to a lot of people, I mean, it's always looking at your writing. And when you correct something that it does wrong, it's
learning from that.
It knows. So while it's learning, you have to keep correcting and keep using editors. Because if we use editors, we're teaching the AI the right things, right? So if you're going through an editing and you're making some mistakes there, you get the editor to fix it, then Grammarly learns. And Grammarly won't make that mistake in the future. So it's a really cool tool to use. Robert, you said, what is the source that it is learning from? Just that's why you download the application. It's connecting to, if you have it on Word, it's taking the information from your Word document. If you're using it on Chrome or in your Outlook or Gmail, it is taking it directly from there. Yep. And Olivia, yes, Grammarly is free for your laptop. Just want to make sure you do the free one, not the subscription.
It's also a website, grammarly.com. If you just want a small bit of text to put in there just to double check, if you don't feel comfortable downloading it onto your computer, that website is also always there for you.
Yeah. All right.
We are not paid by Grammarly or anything. We just really like them.
I hope that you guys are getting affiliate revenue from the presentation.
That's how you know it's good. We're not.
Can we just send the webinar in to them and then get back payment? All right. Well, everyone, hey, I know that Audrey is ready to close up, and it looks like we only have about 4 minutes left in our presentation. We have something very important next to show you, so we're going to table the questions. Thank you all so much. And Audrey, let's fix the situation we caused.
All righty. So you know how I told you guys that editors are only human? Well, I really shouldn't have told you that, as Mark kind of said. If I could have you please stare directly at your screen, your participation is mandatory. That's better. Thank you all so much for attending our editing webinar today. We're so happy that we could walk you through the various types of editing and the necessary steps to ensure a polished manuscript. Of course, we'd love you to like and subscribe, so we'll leave this slide up for a moment so that way you can capture our information. If you are able to subscribe today or click the link that Mark is going to post in the chat, we will offer 10% off of all editing services and a free editing check. And don't forget to mention that Audrey is the best presenter ever. You can always visit us at 2nimble.com or email us directly using info@2nimble.com for more information on us and our services. We look forward to working with you soon. And that's it for 2Nimble. Again, it's been a joy presenting to you today. Best of luck on your book and your journey through publishing. Don't forget, if you get stuck, there are resources out there to help you. Never feel like you're going at it on your own. And thank you so much again to Team Lulu for hosting us today. Chelsea, I'm sending it back to you.
Thank you. Wait, where am I?
Yeah, who am I? What are we talking about?
Thank you so much, you guys. This has been wonderful edutainment at its finest. You guys are a great team. Also, probably the highest stakes webinar we've had. I mean, playing for the House Cup at the end of term. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. So thank you all so much. Again, please take down this information. For anyone who joined late, a recording will be sent out so you can catch it again. We'll also post this to our YouTube channel in the next couple of days, so be on the lookout for that. Everyone, have a wonderful day. I hope the rest of your webinar Wednesday is terrific. Again, Mark and Audrey, thank you so much. And we'll see you next time, guys. Thanks, everybody.
Shout out to Dee for catching the error in the follow us our socials. That one was not edited.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if you guys are hiring right now, but it sounds like you could have some new stuff.
Surprise. That was the bonus.
All right. Well, bonus points, gold stars, everyone.
50 points to every house.
That's right. That's right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
We'll see you later. Bye.